robust agenda for you today, so we're going to get started and continue to welcome colleagues into this space. So for the agenda, oh, we have a lot. We have the May report that we want to make sure that you have access to. Mike's here. He's going to give us a lowdown on legislative updates. We have some things from literacy and math that we want you to be aware of. My family update, which is information around family engagement, state assessments. Of course, Cindy's here, state and federal populations, and I'm sorry, state and federal programs and special populations. Dr. Paul is here. We have instructional technology, safe and healthy schools, and special ed. So you're going to be getting a lot of information today. We're going to get started. Next slide, Anna, please. So as you know, every month we share with you the update report that's linked here in the slide deck, and you'll have access to all of information and all of the slides. We encourage you to share this update report with your colleagues and your leaders from across your district. And unless Beth has anything to insert before we really dive into Mike.
I don't. Welcome, Mike. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Afternoon. Um, we can jump to the next. Perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit. This is kind of just the outline of kind of what I'm going to run through. I have two other slides following this slide, which I'll get to in a little bit, that details a couple of the executive orders a couple of new executive orders that came out, and I think towards the end of April, as well as just to give you all an update on really the only piece of education related policy that has any real future, and moving forward to getting to the governor's desk, banning cell phones or the use of cell phones in school during instructional time and other times. There's two kind of competing bills that one of them will eventually end up on the governor's desk. So I was going to share a little bit of each of those with you guys as well. Um, Starting at the federal level, just in terms of reconciliation, you're probably starting to hear a little bit more. I mean, if you follow any of this, you're hearing a ton of it. But I know the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. took up their portion of the reconciliation bill. Starting yesterday at about 2:30. I think around. I think they went about 15 hours, if not longer. I know Democrats were introducing a number of different amendments, and it just kind of reaffirmed that this is going to be a bumpy, long process in terms of really getting any finality to what to expect. I think at least what we've seen thus far coming out of at least proposals or negotiations from the House side is that the original, I think, $880 billion in Medicaid cuts that they were looking to make is possibly being pared down to $700 billion. It looks like they are focusing on work requirements, and possibly other areas as well. They go back and forth of whether or not that they're going to look at cuts on a per capita basis and essentially reducing what the state receives from the federal government. And so essentially meaning the state will have to cover more. So it's a little hard to give kind of or get a sense of exactly where we're going to end up on this. But what I will share is that we are continuing to meet with our congressional delegation members in Michigan to share the impact of what would happen to Medicaid in schools or in school-based services for kids if there are cuts to Medicaid, significant cuts to Medicaid. We were just a group of us, and with the K-12 Alliance, was just in Washington D.C. at the end of April. We were at a IDEA symposium talking about the lack of fully funding IDA now that we're reaching the 50th anniversary, I think this July. But we also linked this conversation around surrounding Medicaid cuts within there. And I know supposedly Michigan actually receives more in terms of school-based Medicaid reimbursement from the federal government than California does. So it is significant in the state. We're going to continue to raise the alarm bells. Obviously, in Wayne County, all of our members, both senators and our members of Congress are supportive of maintaining that funding. But we are talking through kind of our existing partnerships with folks like Lisa McClain and Tim Walberg and other Republicans in the delegation about the impact that it would have. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. The other piece of this is you're going to hear pretty soon. The House is recommending X number of cuts to Medicaid. But what we've already heard is from the Senate side is that the Senate is actually not going to accept cuts of that size, at least as of now. And the Senate Republicans have already indicated that they'll be marking up whatever bill the House sends over. So this is going to be a longer drawn out process, which I always thought it was going to. It's easy to have, you think it's easy to have a trifecta and run massive changes through. But when you have over 500 people that have to essentially agree, even inside of a trifecta, it's always going to present problems. So as far as timing, I think we're probably looking into July, probably maybe even August, depending on how things go. There's obviously larger issues at play. Obviously Medicaid is a large issue. There's this state and local tax issue that folks I know on the west side of the country and in New York are in New Jersey are concerned about, that they're all negotiating, but really none of these negotiations have to do with education outside of obviously the Medicaid piece. Within reconciliation, I don't think all of the cuts that we've seen are related to higher education thus far. Where we really need to start, or where we will be focusing our attention, is on the actual budget that they hope to pass along with or after the reconciliation package. We saw a couple weeks ago the president's skinny budget, which I've linked in the slide deck, which you guys will get if you really want to run through all of the cuts. I think I'm not going to run through everything. It looks, it probably looks, at least as of now, scarier than it is. I don't, it's hard to tell because it's kind of just bullets, right? So we do see a $60 million increase for charter school programs. We see them saying that they're going to preserve Title I and streamline K-12 programs. However, within all of this streamlining, they're going to see a $4.5 billion decrease in funding from the previous year. They don't really go into details about where those cuts are coming from, what's being removed, or anything outside of saying they're maintaining funding for Title I. So we'll have to see. The president is supposed to come out with an actual detailed budget that will be hundreds and hundreds of pages sometime in the next week or two or three. So until then, it's kind of hard for us to get a general sense of where these cuts are coming from. I do know that that we are going to see the elimination of Title III of about $890 million. It does look like they are also removing the migrant education and special programs for migrant students, which is $428 million. So all the things that I think I shared with all of you guys in the past in terms of some of these programmatic things we expect to be cut are being cut. Again, we'll have to see what impact this $4.5 billion in cuts is actually going to have and where it will be before we can really kind of get a sense of how this is going to impact us in Michigan. But again, we expect to see kind of a more drawn out piece in the coming weeks. Why don't we skip to is it possible to skip to the next slide and then we'll skip back? Perfect. Thank you. Oh, yeah, perfect. So I mentioned there was a couple of new executive orders. There's, obviously, since I've met with you all, we saw some additional pieces on DEI where there was a question of whether or not districts were going to individually have to affirm and sign a essentially sign a letter saying that they are following Title VI and DEI practices. Obviously, we saw towards the last week of April that a number of different courts, I think 3 or 4 courts, placed temporary restraining orders on that requirement. And so as of now, districts are not required to fill that out. Although I do know sometime in May there is a Title VI um, uh, kind of violation confirm that you're confirming that you're not violating Title VI and other aspects of racial discrimination that is typical in the actual flow of different pieces that the districts are responsible for doing throughout the year. But as of now, that's kind of been put on the back burner. Really, the 2 that came out, I think on April 23rd, are kind of wait and sees. And one of them, I've linked the actual executive orders in each of these. If you guys wanted to take a look at them, one reinstating common sense school discipline policies, and the other advancing AI education for American youth. Um, y- we essentially can read into both of them how much we want, and kind of get a sense. And I've put a little blurb in terms of what we believe these kind of mean, but both of them require US Ed and other agencies to go back, come up with guidance, either within 30 days or 120 days, and release that guidance, or come back to the White House with additional information. So really, we don't have any specifics on any of these 2 executive orders, outside of what you see here and what's actually in the executive order, until US Ed comes back and says, here's our guidance based off of this executive order. We're not going to really have a terribly good sense of how things will change, or what we'll end up with. If you can go back real quick. I see someone just asked a question. So to confirm, LEAs will not receive Title III funding for 25-26 school year, correct? So Sean, that's not to confirm anything yet. No, this would be the budget for the following year. We need, until any of this goes, this all are proposals at this point. Until anything is passed and we know the exact numbers, the exact things that are going to end up. This is all just of things that we're hearing, or things that have been placed on proposals. So can't confirm any of that right now for you. And I see the next slide, or the next question I have here asks me about Senate Bill, well, it says 230 to 234. If you can go back to the first slide that I had there, please. Perfect. Sorry to go back and forth here, guys. This was just the easiest way for me to include all these slides from different slide decks that I have for this month, my updates this month. So right now, as I mentioned, there is not a lot of policy that is being discussed or moving back and forth that is going to end up on the governor's desk, at least as it relates to education. I include a link in here for you guys to take a look. I think right now, so we're 4.5 months in. I think I'm tracking 78 different pieces of legislation or resolutions, in the House and the Senate. There's been a number of bills that have been passed out of the House Education Policy Committee, which I think I shared last month, that essentially are DOA in the Senate. We've been paying attention to them, but we haven't really been actively engaging in them because we've been told by the Senate that, and specifically Senator Polanki, who's chaired the Senate Education Policy Committee, that she has no interest in taking any of these bills up that the House is sending over. I include the link so you guys can see what is out there if you're interested. When you click the link, it essentially is going to give you a 1 or 2 sentence blurb about what each of these bills are, and it allows you to click through if you want to take a look, a deeper look. Um, as I mentioned, the one piece that we are going to see move forward at some point is going to be banning cell phone bills, or bills that will ban or restrict the use of cell phones by students in schools. Senate Bill 234, House Bill 4141. If you could click 2 slides forward. Perfect, thanks. As you read through kind of the description of these 2 bills, they will somewhat look or sound similar. I would argue that Senate Bill 234 does provide more flexibility for districts. It essentially just says that a district has to have has to have a policy in place that would limit cell phone use during instructional time. Instructional time, breaks between instructional time, lunch and recess, stuff like that. Um, there in both of these bills, you'll see there are there are exemptions contained in each of these um, for emergency situations, any devices needed for medical use, devices included in a Section 504 plan or IEP, and also allows for a school, at least in the Senate bill, allows for the school principal to implement further exceptions as they see fit. So this does provide more flexibility, in my opinion, than House Bill 4141, which essentially says that it breaks it down into two specific areas, which kind of bans use at middle school and elementary school, and then at the high school level, it would just prohibit the use of devices during instructional time. So that's a little bit different in there. As I said, both of these bills include kind of the exceptions. House Bill 4141 also, and this is the piece where you lose that flexibility among the other areas, but it appeals a section of school code which currently allows districts to create their own policies in this. We we're supportive of Senate Bill 234. I think from a sense of why would we support one of these bills? I mean, I have shared with legislators, look, many, if not all of our districts have, most, if not all of our districts have some sort of policy around cell phones in school, and they're working. Why do we need to have something? And the answer to this is all political. This is all for kind of for PR and stories and being in the news saying we're helping kids. I think I will say that one of these bills will pass, as I've said, but the you know we've seen just recently a bill in New York get signed into law by their governor, which was a bell-to-bell ban in all grades. So it could be worse. I think this train is moving and it's going to run us over regardless. And if we had to pick one of these bills, we would pick Senate Bill 234 just because it basically allows districts to continue what they're already doing, not have to create new policies. If anything, it just has to they just have to make sure within the Senate bill that it's detailed the enforcement mechanism, right? So is it the teacher? Is the classroom teacher who's kind of enforcing the district policy, which many districts that already have these policies in place already have that written in. Um, and then so those are the cell phone bills. I'm guessing probably by June, probably getting into June, we should see something being sent to the governor. Although I can't, because we have a week break with the Mackinac Policy Conference coming up as well. So that's the cell phone bills and the policy pieces that are currently out there. If you can go back to 2 slides, please. Sorry. All right. Next time I'll do this better instead of going back and forth and back and forth. But um, so the final piece I want to touch on is the budget. The next year's budget that they're currently working on, as well as a roads deal. I think you're hearing a lot about a roads package and how the state's going to fund a roads package. The House of Representatives has come out with their version. What it would do is remove the schools from the sales tax on gas and backfill us with $755 million a year into the school aid fund. From the perspective of tax policy, looking at the sales tax on gas, it does go up and down every single year with the kind of further introduction of more and more electric vehicles on the road. There's some volatility there. So locking in a $755 million a year instead of depending on the gas tax or the sales tax on gas is kind of attractive. I think the one concern that we have is that it doesn't stop the legislature or the state from pulling from the school aid fund for other areas when the general fund goes down. So that remains a concern and is also going to be directly tied to the budget. Since we've spoke, we have now received the Senate school aid budget, which provides I think it's a 10,001, 10,010. Can't remember where my notes are here. Foundation allowance for the coming year. And it's just over what the governor has proposed, a flat 10,000. It is in, what Senator Camilleri provided in his budget is a decent budget. It's nothing to get super excited about. It's essentially a $400 increase in the per pupil allotment. What is of concern there's a couple of things of concern in his budget that I'm not going to all dive into all of them, but within the per pupil increase, he does require that half of it, so $200, be used to directly and permanently increase funding or increase salaries for teachers, which provides a number of different issues for superintendents and districts trying to plan through obviously through their budgets um, and also gets into the whole piece of um, the legislature kind of dictating how and what districts provide teachers. I will say I do think that that's probably going to be removed at the end of the negotiation process. I know MEA has kind of quietly indicated that they're not big fans of this language. I think partially because could technically you could be in a situation where a $200 per pupil pot of money is much smaller than what uh, um, what districts and unions are currently negotiating for increased salaries. And you could say, well, this is all the legislature's giving us. So I expect this to be taken out. There's pretty significant increases in at risk in special education in his budget, but really overall, what it represents is just the second leg to the stool. We have the governor's budget. We now have the Senate budget. We're waiting on the House budget. I think, as I've shared previously, you guys aren't going to like the House budget. I think that they're going to come out with a pretty sizable foundation increase, and probably something over $10,100. But they're also going to be rolling up and pulling back on a number of different areas of funding, which you'll be concerned about when you see it. I can't share any details in it because I haven't seen any details, and we're told that they're not going to the House isn't going to release their budget until after the Constitutional Revenue Estimating Conference, which is this Friday. So hopefully we'll see something next week. Otherwise, we might not see something until the first week of June. So once they have those three pieces, once we have those three pieces, they'll enter into negotiations. There's complications of, as I mentioned, the roads deal is being tied to really the budget in a whole because they have to figure if they're going to commit significant funding in any piece of the budget to roads, then they really can't finalize many budgets until everything is kind of packaged and completed, which is raising our concerns from a school aid budget level of they have every intention of trying to leverage the school aid budget to get a roads deal done, as well as the fact that they're probably not going to get a roads deal done or a complete budget done until probably sometime until September. So you're going to hear at least us from the K-12 Alliance and others start kind of pushing more on trying to get a budget done by July 1st. And there might be even more kind of unprecedented, more direct pushes at, hey, let's get pieces of a budget from us in terms of, hey, let's get pieces of a budget done now so that schools know the funds they have available to operate and do school. So more on that as we come. I mean, usually at this time of the year, we have all three budgets and I have a better sense of where things are headed. And this is just a different type of year with a lot of different issues. I still remain concerned about how our budget is impacted by any cuts that come down from the federal level. As a reminder, I think it's $2.4 billion that we receive from the federal government within the school aid budget. And that includes, right, school meals, That includes Medicaid and all of those other areas. So I'll stop there and answer any questions that you guys might have.
I am not seeing anything in the chat right now.
Okay, so I know Scott, just to finish answering Scott's question, yes, this set up at 166, so that's the Senator Camilleri school aid bill was passed yesterday. So it'll be sent to the House, but that's just, I mean, that's negotiation. That's typical. So nothing is complete yet. And it looks like and then it looks like this question from
One more
Sean.
in chat.
Oh, quick follow-up. It says, when you talk about potential federal cuts to grants such as Title III, are you talking about FY 26 or 27? So that would be looking, as I understand it, and it's hard to figure it because we're currently under continuing resolution. My understanding would be for not this current.
Coming.
Some pieces would be not for this current fiscal year, but for a couple years down the road. Um, what the state budget office has said, for example, is that some of the cuts to but some of the potential cuts to like the school meals program wouldn't really hit us until our FY 29. But again, it's I'm not I'm not in the practice of telling you this will hit us then this or that until anything is actually on paper and we have a better sense of it. All right.
All
Thanks,
right,
everybody.
Mike, thank you so much. And as always, if anyone has any follow-up questions, sometimes I think we reflect on these conversations and later we go, huh? Obviously, just reach out to myself or directly to Mike, and we'll make sure we get as much clarity as possible for you. And thanks always, Mike, for being here, showing up, and preparing to bring us everything you know. With that, I'll toss it to Mary.
Thanks, Beth. Next, we have literacy and math updates. I believe we're going to hear from Sarah Jones first about Boys College.
Yes, good afternoon. I just wanted to tell you about two wonderful opportunities that we have coming up. Tomorrow, we actually have Dr. Amber Lawson coming to do a wonderful professional development on the ABCs of decodables and having children write their own and being the author of those decodables while targeting on phonics skills. It'll be from 4:30 till 6, and the link is attached on the slide if you are interested in that. And then for some summer learning, we have Dr. Alfred Tatum coming to do a great summer workshop. And that will be a 2-day workshop. And then the second part of that will lead into a summer program that will target grades 3 through 5. So those upcoming or rising up third graders and rising up fifth graders. So both of those are linked on that slide, and we hope that you will take part in these learning opportunities.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'm also seeing that one of our literacy consultants, Melissa Wilson, has put in the chat that Dr. Lawson wrote the decodables for our Lit Lab summer learning this year. So it's a really nice connection. So if you're available, that session tomorrow night is no cost. All right. So we do want to share with you, and I know you've probably gotten multiple emails about this, but we just want to make sure that everybody who needs this information has it. If you haven't already signed up for that May 20th webinar, we encourage you to do so. We're going to dive into what the dyslexia legislation says about curriculum, and then specifically looking at that 35M grant and what it takes to actually get funds to help support that Tier 1 curriculum. So if you're a district or a school that is interested in pursuing that, we are here to help you. We want to make sure that every child in Wayne County has access to a high quality Tier 1 curriculum. So we are here to help you with that. We'll walk you through every step of the way so that you are able to leverage those funds if it works for your districts. We want to make sure that you have that on your calendars. If you haven't already, the link is in the chat. we're actually going to pause just for a minute to give people the opportunity, if you haven't signed up for that webinar, to do so right now. And then if you have already signed up for the webinar, and you'll know you have if you've gotten a calendar invite. So if you don't have it on your calendar, you haven't signed up yet. We also have a link there to our Compass Learning Partnership Survey. We'd really like to take just a couple of minutes right now to get your feedback on whether or not you would like to take advantage of an opportunity this summer. We're looking at the dates June 17th, 18th, and 19th to work with a group formerly with Ed Reports who will come in and help us very strategically. We'll work through that curriculum adoption work. We know that it has to be truncated due to the timeline that we have from the state, but we want to help you through that process. So if you think that those days might work for you, or you're interested in this, but those days don't work for you and your team, we'd love that feedback. So I will go ahead and stop talking for a few minutes so that you have a chance just to fill out those forms. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. And I'll just add a little here. Um, I just want to acknowledge, obviously, with everyone on this call, you represent so many different districts and sort of corners of the county, and different districts are in different places. So we know that a number of districts have adopted high quality instructional materials over the last couple years that are highly aligned. And however, there are a number of districts who haven't had that opportunity. And this $87 million ensures that every child in Wayne County can have access, and every educator can have access to best in class materials for a comprehensive reading block. And so we are holding ourselves responsible for reaching out to every district and making sure that not only do they know that this funding is available, but that they have a partner in supporting them through each phase of this. We know from previous work that the State Department's done that oftentimes these grants and processes are labor intensive. We acknowledge that. And we also know to make really good decisions about what exactly you might adopt with this available funding takes commitment and engagement, and it needs to be done thoughtfully. And so we are standing ready to support you through that, acknowledging that the 35M grant will open in June. We're anticipating from the state that it'll be open anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. It's very short. It's in the summer. So sending love to all of our curriculum leaders here who thought they might get a vacation. But I find that when you take on work like this, doing it in community with others who are pursuing it and doing it with supports, the outcome is a lot more successful. And so we're inviting you to come into community with us. In May, we're going to tell you everything we know right now. There's a lot we don't know. The state's application for this funding has not come out yet, so we don't know yet. But the minute it comes out, we're going to deeply study it. We're going to understand what's needed. We're going to work together to provide guidance and support and resources, and technical assistance. Dr. Carolyn Paul's here today. And whatever happens in Nexus or whatever system, we've got your back. And as Michelle also mentioned, we know that a multi-step thoughtful process in terms of selecting anything that you might put in front of students is necessary and required. So we are deeply committed to supporting you with that as well. There is funding within this $87 million also for professional learning and tiered interventions. And so acknowledging that, because everyone's needs might not be core materials, but basically our big bet is how do we make sure that after this huge amount of money became available, that no one is sitting with something that is not highly aligned and not what teachers and students need. So that's our goal. Thanks. That's my pitch. I'll stop talking now. I appreciate everyone.
Thank you, Beth. And so one more time, I'm just going to drop it. So it's the most recent link for you. That link to the summer opportunity. If you think that you might be interested in either attending yourself or bringing a team, it would be a team who's focused on implementing that new curriculum, kind of looking at the curricular choices. We have that link there just to gather some feedback quickly. Great, we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. Closely related, we wanted to make sure that we reminded you about our 35M site, where it's a subset of grants.resa.net, where we're updating you with the most recent information as soon as it becomes available. And so one thing that's been added just in the last few minutes is MDE has put out their FAQ on 35M. So we want to make sure that you have that resource. But any time that new information comes out, we try and update that site right away. So you don't have to remember multiple sites, just grants.resa.net. And hopefully that'll stay up to date and ready just to give you all of that information. Thank you. Next.
Okay, so on behalf of our math team, actually none of our math team was able to make it today. So Dawn Chauvin, one of our math consultants, made just a short little video for you. So we're going to pretend like she's actually here. Anna, can you play the video, please?
Team leaders that really support the planning of mathematics.
Back to the
I'm here to share with you a new elementary math offering for the 25-26 school year. This offering is focused on using your district curricular resource to bring the early math essentials to life. We're hoping to have elementary teachers here, anywhere from kinder through 5th grade. And ideally, if you have some grade level team leaders that really support the planning of mathematics, they would be amazing to have as our audience. We are really hoping to build capacity and understanding of what the early math essentials look like and where those essentials come to life in your resource to help teachers plan to implement the essentials effectively in their classrooms. This series does begin in August and wraps up in March before M-STEP testing begins, with the idea that we're getting teachers a deep understanding of what the essentials are so that throughout the year we can continue to build capacity, reflect on student learning, and teacher moves to help best support the essentials in your classrooms. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My email is on the slide, and we look forward to seeing your teachers joining us this fall. Everyone, I'm here to share with you a new
Good afternoon, Melissa Wilson here, just to give you a very brief update on the LitLab implementation and a small request. So as you can see, we are very excited about the growth of our Summer LitLab initiative. This is the potential impact for students who are participating across our county. So we're very excited to start the summer. If you are a LitLab site, on the next slide, you will see a small request. We are looking to get some logistical information to ensure all of the deliveries arrive where they should and all of our assessment team members go where they should on the right date. So very brief information, will probably take you less than 3 minutes, but on the screen are those that have already submitted. So thank you to those on the screen who have already submitted. If you're a LitLab site this year and don't see your name, if you would be so kind as to respond to the survey, I'm going to put it in the chat now. You also have an email from me with the link, but it's a very quick survey. I'm sure you'll know the information right off the hat, but really looking to have that information today so that we can ensure that vendors deliver your things on time and at the right place. Next slide. So taking off my LitLab hat and putting on my family hat, you may have seen in the monthly updates some new information monthly around the My Family Initiative. Really, it's a statewide initiative where we have 10 centers. We are one of them, where we really look to promote family and community engagement in a partnership, authentic way. And so to do that, next year we're launching the My Family Network. It's in our catalog and promoted in this May's edition of the Update newsletter. But we really hope to have a wide representation of our county for those who work in the family-facing roles. This may be a dean of students. This could be a family engagement specialist that you have in your district, or it could be you. But what we're looking to do is combine our network alongside Dr. Paul's attendance work group. So you'll notice in the description that each of our My Family Network meetings, there are 4 of them, involves a catered lunch. And this lunch is going to be in family with the workshop team, with the attendance work group team. And so we're going to come together around food at a shared table, and then also focus upon our community and family engagement. So a great opportunity to network, to potentially impact some systems that have been broken and focus on positive school attendance, and just come together as a county. So hoping that we'll have great representation next year. Thank you.
Hello. I have some reminders, but most of the slides are I have some updates, but most of the slides are just reminders that we went through last month. Some reminders, the MSTEP online testing closes May 16th, that's this Friday. So you do want to make sure that you're checking the status of the students' testing. You can check the status in the DRC site. You're going to look at the second tile in the middle at the student status dashboard. And you can check, the red means the students have not tested, blue is in progress, and green is they have finished testing. So you want to make sure all of your bar graphs, you can sort by content or grade level, all of your bar graphs are moving to green, which means all of your students have tested by this Friday, the 16th. Your My Access testing closes the 23rd. All of your scores have to be entered by 4 p.m. that day. The deadline to return your materials for work keys is the 14th today, and then your My Access materials have to be returned by the 28th. I shared this last month, but just a reminder, preliminary scores are available in OEAA in the dynamic score reports. They are available within 48 hours of a student testing, as long as it's an online test. You can access the reports in OEAA under the reports drop-down tab, and then select dynamic score reports, filter for your school information, and then select the box for open report. They do not have the writing section as part of the score yet. And the social studies will not be included in the dynamic score reports. Since the test was realigned to the 2019 standards, they still have to do standard setting process. So those scores will be released later. The score release timeline for students, your PSAT and SAT, your students who tested in the first window between April 7th and 11th, they have already started to receive their student scores. They can receive their scores either in the Big Future mobile app if they signed up, or in their College Board account. If they tested in the second window, the 14th to the 25th, they will receive their scores tomorrow. For educators, the timeline, your PSAT and SAT scores always come earlier, so anticipate those end of June in the College Board online portal. And then the rest of the scores will be released in My School Data Portal early August in a preview window. And then anticipate public release end of August, and then your accountability index release in November. College Board will be hosting a PSAT and SAT score reporting webinar on August 20th at 9 a.m. The link to register is there. And there is a post-administration survey for SAT that's due this Friday. And they're asking if you could take a moment to complete the survey to get some feedback regarding testing in the digital SAT. The link is there at the top. Next slide. Tested roster is open in OEAA. Tested roster does tie to accountability. So on the left is your tested roster for WIDA. They're looking at enrolled students and demographics. So students who should be dropped, or students who should be enrolled, who should be coded correctly, whether they're special education or EL, that needs to be updated in MS. So they're looking at all of those demographic changes. For WIDA, the deadline it's open now. The deadline to make all of those changes in MSDS is June 4th. They must have a as of date of April 4th. And then for your general assessments, your My Access, MSTEP, PSAT, and SAT, that window is also open, and those are due June 10th, and they must have an as of date of May 23rd. So they will be pulling all of those SRMs with those as of dates, so they must have those as of dates. Your central office will understand that terminology, but if you need help with any of that information, you can contact me. But for now, just know that this information ties back to accountability and your participation, and your subgroups that are coded into accountability. So you want to make sure that's clean as possible. You're going to look for those little triangle error codes in your pre-ID reports and make sure they are cleaned up. Again, WIDA is due June 4th and your general assessments is due June 10th. The next windows that will open for tested roster in the coming weeks, they'll move into answer documents received, missing tests, and then not tested window. So you're going to check for missing tests and then report any issues, any missing tests. And then you will move into appeals. If you're going to do medical exemptions, if a student was enrolled too late in the testing window, a student who was new to the country and has an ELA exemption, or any student who took My Access, supported independence, or participation for social studies, and the state does not have that assessment, you still have to do an appeal for a tested roster. So those are some common appeals that you have to do every year. I will have office hours available and we'll post those and send out an email for assistance, but just to know it is open now in OEAA. Your third grade M-STEP reading scores are being flagged for additional supports. So if you went into the dynamic score reports to look at the preliminary data, you saw that there is a column there that is flagging the students. They changed the cut this year. So last year, you can see on the right in the 2024 Read by Grade 3 law, the thresholds, the scale score to identify students needing support last year was 1271 or below. This year, the scale score is 1279 or below to identify students who need support. That's the new M-STEP reading score guideline. Any student at 1280 or above meets the requirement. So a greater number of students may be identified for needing that additional reading support. Those students who are identified will receive a letter, their parent or guardian will receive a letter from CEPI. And the date for those letters to go home is July 31st. MDE says they are on track with that date. We don't have much more information than that from MDE. As soon as more information comes out, we will share that information. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything to that, but that's what we have at this point. Just to know that the cut score changed and letters will be going home based on that new cut score. Next slide. I've been sharing this for the last couple months, but just a reminder, the deadline to submit your application for reimbursement for benchmark assessments is June 30th. And there are requirements to follow for that last window of benchmark assessments for the spring. That money can be recaptured if you do not follow those requirements. You have to administer the same spring assessment that you did in the fall. They defined spring this year. It's the last marking period of the school year. So in the last previous years that spring was never defined, you could do it whenever you wanted. It is now the last marking period of the school year. You have to do mode of instruction in Data Hub. The deadline for mode of instruction is June 13th. Benchmark scores have to be populated in the Data Hub by June 13th, and you have to provide data to parents and guardians within 30 days of the spring test administration. So those requirements have to be followed in order to keep those funds that were allocated. And then there's some resources and then information on how to submit in Nexus. Next slide. The Atlas contract renewal is up for 25-26. The deadline to submit the survey, if you would like to renew under the consortium, or if you would like to be removed, or if you would like to be contacted for more information, that deadline is today. The link to the survey is linked. We also have a link to the contract and the pricing. Current participating districts that don't respond, they are auto-renewed. So make sure you are checking the list of current districts and that you are filling out that survey if you want to be removed. There was a recording and a slide deck if you want information. And you can also reach out with some emails below to Atlas or myself for more information. And then MBE, they are looking to expand the use of the Smarter Balanced interim assessments in Michigan. So they are hosting a pilot program for 25-26 and ask that we share this with all of the districts in the ISDs. So this is for grades 3 through 8. They have some incentives. They will do data analysis and offer some free paid registration to different conferences. There is an overview link there, and you can contact Jennifer Paul at MDE if you're interested in joining this pilot for the Smarter Balanced interim assessments. That's it from any questions? No,
I'm not seeing any in the chat either. Thank you, Cindy.
thank you.
So I wanted to quickly update everyone on the oncoming MDE Regional Spring Planning Workshop. This event is scheduled for Monday, May 19th from 9 to 12 at Wayne Risa's Boyd Arthur's Auditorium on the second floor at the main building. We already have 65 people registered, and I think it really shows our interest around state and federal programs and the importance of grants. And so the workshop will really feature our direct MDE Team 5 representatives, and they will be doing all of the facilitation as well. We also have a additional networking opportunity on that day immediately following the workshop. This will give us all a chance to connect with each other, ask questions, and to receive personalized support if needed. So if you or members of your team haven't yet registered, I encourage you to scan the QR code on the flyer to indicate your interest. We do have a light breakfast, and so we want to make sure that we have really good numbers on that. Again, this will be a great opportunity to get clarity on some MDE expectations, connect with our regional partners at Team 5, and also align for the upcoming school year. So let me know if you have any questions about the registration process or the event. And in addition, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew about some important resources that are available to our McKinney-Vento Consortium members at Wayne Risa. This could be a big benefit to our students, particularly those who are facing housing challenges. So if we could move to the next slide, I want to jump into our special populations update. So Wayne Risa currently has funding available through McKinney-Vento grant program that can be accessed. And this really includes 3 key support areas that I think are pertinent right now to you. First, gas cards. Gas cards are available to support students' extracurricular transportation needs. So we can't supplant. It's not transportation needs to school during the school day. Instead, it's around extracurricular transportation needs, which might be great for after school or for summer events. And these requests need to be submitted through your district's homeless liaison. Second, there's a camp fee reimbursement of up to $350 per student. And specifically, these are all for students experiencing homelessness. The camp has to promote extended learning, social connection, and emotional well-being for students. But I think the camp more leads into our summer programming. So be creative with that term camp, right? And how we can really support your students experiencing homelessness. Third, funding is available for credit recovery programs to help our students experiencing homelessness stay on track for graduation as well. So we're able to do a reimbursement for you for some credit recovery programs. Additionally, Wayne Risa is providing resources to develop wellness closets and pantries for students experiencing homelessness. So this includes up to $500 for storage items
and approximately $100 per student for school uniforms. So we want to be able to give you the closet itself, so the container, so that you can organize all of your materials for our students who are experiencing homelessness, but we also want to help you stock those things as well with school uniforms. So all requests should be directed to the special populations team at specialpops@risa.net. And if you want any more details or specific information, please feel free to reach out. We get back with you very quickly at the special populations team because we know how urgent your needs are. Thanks, everyone. So the next slide is a video around a conference that we are hosting on September 30th. Again, we're trying to address attendance and to make sure that we increase school participation.
Schools
Thank you.
are focused on addressing chronic absence because good attendance is at the heart of student success. Join our Wayne Risa team on September 30th for In Class is Where It's At, a one-day conference on tackling chronic absenteeism. Research has shown that students who have really good attendance patterns also have increased academics, they have increased social, emotional wellness, and they're more likely to graduate. The difference with a student who is not attending on time or not attending daily versus a student who has really good attendance practices might be on track or off track for graduation. That's why we put together the In Class is Where It's At Good Attendance Conference. And we're hosting it on September 30th, 2025. At this conference, you're going to be given research-based practices. You're going to be able to collaborate with others throughout Wayne County and broadly as well about chronic absence. So join us to reimagine attendance strategies and create stronger and more engaged school communities.
Our chronic absenteeism rate in Wayne County for our students who are housed is 40%, but for our students who are unhoused, who are experiencing homelessness, it's 73%. Our students who are homeless have additional barriers and challenges to getting to school and getting to school on time. So we really want to make sure that this conference addresses those unique challenges that our students are experiencing and also some strategies to address how to overcome those barriers and challenges.
So here at Wayne Risa, one of the ways we are building good attendance in our schools is through a positive press campaign, In Class is Where It's At. And we partnered with our friends and colleagues at Oakland Schools, at Macomb ISD, and we're running ads all school year long that are positive, inclusive, and you can see them on bus wraps, at the gas station, listen to them on the radio, see them on your phones. And the message is that everyone belongs. School is an inclusive place. And we connect families to resources at our landing page, learninclass.com. We want to share this campaign blueprint with you so that you can take and create a campaign like this in your schools.
So we hope to see you there on September 30th, 2025, because attendance isn't just about being counted, but making every day count.
So I just want to reiterate that all requests should be directed to the special populations team, and we are here to support you. So specialpops@risa.net. Thank you.
Schools are focused.
All right, we'll move right into instructional technology. Just a moment, you'll have a link within the chat to subscribe to our learning channel. This is a great way to get all of the information that is shared at these curriculum leader update meetings, as well as content that's created for online delivery. For example, our Summer Blitz series is always uploaded here as well. So if you're interested in seeing those videos as they're posted, go ahead and subscribe to that. And now I will turn it over to Judy Bowling.
All right, good afternoon. I just want to make mention of MEL. Many of you might be familiar with it. It has been around for 25 years, but if you are not familiar with it, it's a phenomenal resource that is accessible to everybody across the state of Michigan at no cost. And so it supports more than just your K-12. It supports everybody. But I did pull out the specific resources that would pertain to just elementary and secondary. If you wanted to have just a quick choice board, it has all kinds of digital resources in there that can support student learning. And so it's phenomenal. With that being said, there is some uncertainty with the continued funding of the e-library. So we just wanted to put that on your radar as well. So there have been a couple of learning engagement employees that have helped to support professional development and learning, and those positions have been eliminated as of September 30th. And so the hope is that post September 30th, Mel will continue to service everybody as it is now, but there is a little bit of uncertainty about that. So what we do know for sure is that it is a phenomenal resource that can help support student learning, and that it will for sure continue to be intact through September 30th. And then we'll keep you posted beyond that. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, we would encourage you to do that. And then we just recently were awarded funding for an exciting learning experience coming up. It's a tri-county collaborative, so we've worked in conjunction with Macomb and Oakland to provide an upcoming series starting in September. And so in our planning, as many of you have probably attended, there's a lot of learning around AI right now. And so we tried to be very intentional about creating a learning series that takes a deeper dive into the actual implementation of using AI in the classroom. And so we've structured a year-long series that alternates between a full day in person and a virtual. So Carl, Amber, and Ken Shelton will be our virtual meetings in between our in-person. And so the content that they deliver will connect with the theme of our in-person. And then our last in-person in May will be facilitated by Troy Hicks. And again, the primary focus of this series is implementation. We are capping it at 100, and it is again across all 3 counties. And so the QR code that's there, and there's a link to the flyer that will take you to a form for application. We're going to have, our hope is that the week of June 16th, we will notify people as to their participation into this series. So we are excited to share that with you. And then the last thing is, many of you, again, probably have it on your radar that a new requirement for the high school offering a computer science course to be in place by the 27-28 school year. The Computer Science Collaborative has put together a 2-page guidance document that is linked there that might help answer some of your questions that you might have. And then there's also a link to the actual House bill as well. But the primary things that they're trying to convey is that it must meet or exceed the Michigan K-12 computer science standards. They are prioritizing that it is offered as an in-person versus a hybrid or online course, and that it must be listed as an option within your catalog. And so there's a lot of questions around that. So hopefully the guidance documents will be of help to you. And then one of the things that Cheryl Wilson and the team has pulled out is that there can be a level of creativity in those courses that are offered. And so one of the things that's mentioned is possibly looking at your 4th year math requirement. And so on the next slide, it pulls out from page 8 of the MMC document that in looking at that 4th year high school credit, that computer programming may be something to take into consideration if you're getting creative in what that might look like. So if you have any further questions about that, I've included Cheryl Wilson's email address on there, that she is open to helping you in any way that you can if you have any specific questions.
Thank you, Judy.
Hey,
Turn it over.
thanks, Michelle. I have just a couple of quick updates for you. One of them is on the next slide, sharing information about our upcoming CSTAG training. So our Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines training. You remember earlier this year, legislation was passed that requires all districts to have school threat assessment teams in place by October 1st of 2026. So we've arranged to have a two-part training, a comprehensive, a CSTAG level 1, level 2, which is the training that would help you to establish and or expand your school threat assessment teams in schools or across your district. So that is June 18th. The cost to that is usually much higher than $20, but we do have grant funding available. And so the $20 really is just covering lunch for the day. We also have the CSTAG Train the Coach or Train the Trainer program, which occurs on June 18, 19, and half a day on June 20th. That is really to help build capacity in your district so that you can keep your teams growing and bring new members of your district up to speed with CSTAG. If you choose to send one or more folks to the Train the Coach program, know that RISA team members that are trained are available to support in-district delivery along with your coaches if you're looking to do something for a large group of people in your district. The cost for that training is $40. And I just want to say that, again, just to cover the food, that training typically is $1,800. And we've partnered with our neighboring ISD and are able to use some grant funds to support Southeastern Michigan educators and community partners to become coaches in CSTAG. We have a short timeline. The registration process needs to be completed by May 30th because there are a couple of steps that the coaches will need to take prior to attending the training on June 18th. So if you're interested in that, actually we'll put the links in the chat here so that you have easy access to them. And on the next slide, I want to share a little bit of information about trails. So we are in the last 18 months of the 31 P funded trails programming, which is, I've shared this with you a few times, tiered training that covers SEL at tier 1, cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness at tier 2, and suicide risk management at tier 3. Trails has reached over half of our schools in Wayne County in this last 18 months. They really want to connect with the remaining schools. So they've changed their process. In the past, you've had to fill out surveys. Here they've simplified it. And if you're interested in meeting with a Trails staff member to learn more about programming, there's a link on the slide here that you can click to set that meeting up directly with Trails staff. Despite the funding ending currently in December of 2026, that really is taking care of the costs around training. Access to the materials will be ongoing beyond that spending deadline. So if you decide to implement, you won't lose access to funding once the spending deadline is reached for 31P. And that's what I have for you today. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate Pearson. I am the Essential Elements Consultant here at Wayne RISA. I just wanted to provide an update because our department has gotten a lot of questions during this testing cycle, and as testing, as Cindy was saying, is wrapping up. But we've had a lot of questions surrounding alternate assessments and My Access testing. So MDE provides this great guidance document that we can share with you. I'll put it in the chat now. But it's a great document that has these visuals and a breakdown of should my student take the alternate assessment, and then factors to consider and factors to not consider when deciding which assessment is most appropriate for a student. So this would be a great resource to print out and have in the conference rooms or have in your IEP meeting spaces for staff and for teams to look over when making decisions regarding which assessment is appropriate for students, especially thinking about the alternate assessments such as the My Access. We can go to the next slide. Also, I wanted to add some talking points here, especially for your staff that are a part of these decisions, such as your IEP teams, surrounding MDE's 1% alternate assessment cap. So making sure that IEP teams and staff and parents and students understand the purpose of the 1% cap, because it's really focused on students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. We want to make sure that it aligns with IDEA's requirements that students have access to the general education curriculum to the greatest extent possible. And it's important that over identification, we want to limit that because it's going to limit students' access to grade level content and possible future post-secondary opportunities that they might have. There's such a distinct difference between students who are on the diploma track versus students who are on the certificate of completion track. So we just want to make those points really known to all parties who are involved in this important decision making. And then we want to make sure that our decisions are also driven by data and that are compliant. We want to make sure that IEP teams use multiple sources of data, and we've listed a few examples of what that could look like. Decisions should really be individualized. They're not based on a specific disability category. It doesn't matter whether a student is placed in an Act 18 classroom or in a resource program. It doesn't matter if they've taken an alternate assessment in the past, but now they're looking at a different type of assessment, maybe in a secondary setting. So we want to make sure that you're considering all of those points there. So, and also consider the least restrictive assessment environment. We want to make sure that students could have access to a general assessment with the addition of accommodations. So we want to make sure that's also considered at the decision-making table. And continuing the talking points for your teams, also ensuring proper documentation. That's a part of the IEP. So the IEP must include clear documentation of the eligibility determination process for that student. Again, really supported in data for that decision that's been made. And then a statement also a part of the IEP confirming that the student cannot participate in general assessments, even if additional accommodations were provided. So the decision should be made annually. So the student should not be automatically re-enrolled in an alternative assessment just because they had taken one previously or the year prior or in the past. So we want to make sure that at the IEP meetings and those decisions are coming up every year, because we know that students change, students make progress, and that decision should not necessarily be the same at all times. We can go to the next slide, please. And then I've just linked here some MDE resources. They provide a lot of great videos, descriptor tools, guidance documents, just to help support teams in this big decision. It's definitely something that, again, needs to be discussed annually at every IEP meeting, and often I think gets overlooked, especially for students in that moderate to severe category. So we just wanted to send out these links and resources as a reminder as you're preparing for next school year and for next assessment season.
Thank you, Kate. As you know, this is our last Curriculum Leaders Update meeting of the school year, but we want to make sure that you're registered to attend those update meetings for next school year. So if you haven't had an opportunity yet to register for that, it's no cost. The only thing really that registration does for you is it gets you that calendar invite for each of the events so that they show up on your calendar and you're able to join quickly and easily. So if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes to register, and if you happen to be watching this after the fact, if you're watching the recording, that information is available along with all the resources shared today at risa.net/curriculum leaders. That's risa.net/curriculum leaders. And that's where we house all of the information from past meetings, as well as the links to join these meetings.
So I believe that brings us to the end of our May update meeting, and I believe this is our last meeting, as Michelle just mentioned. Please feel free to access any and all of the resources, share widely with your staff and those with whom you work, your leadership teams, and please register for next year. And in the meantime, have a great spring, great summer. I know we'll see a lot of you between now and next school year, and let us know how we can support you. Have a great afternoon.